$1 trillion.
$1 trillion.
5 years from zero to $1 trillion.
It's only $965 billion.
Here's what's really going on. Anthropic raised $65 billion from investors. When you work out how many shares did they get for that $65 billion, it means that the company has a market valuation of $965 billion, or a rounding error from $1 trillion. Minor details, $15 billion of that was already committed. Those investments were already lined up. $5 billion of that was from Amazon, which is one of their major hosting providers. There's also participation from Samsung, Micron, and SK Hynix, the three memory makers who control the critical memory that is used in all the data centers and essentially all the AI hardware that is used to make everything work. I think another interesting detail here is that Anthropic has about 2,500 employees. So you take $1 trillion and you divide it by 2,500 employees, and you get $400 million per employee. You compare that to Nvidia with 42,000 employees, or OpenAI, which has 5,000 employees and probably not double the valuation of Anthropic, probably not close to that, and SpaceX with about 15,000 employees and less than double the valuation. So that $400 million valuation per employee really stands out as something. I haven't heard others talk about that, but that's like a really striking value for a company to be that. And that suggests AI is worth a lot. AI does a lot at this company. They're delivering a lot of value to a lot of customers. There's a lot of positive things going on with Anthropic. Like, they may actually be profitable at this stage, which is unusual. Another detail from the announcement that I think is worth noticing is we have significantly expanded our compute capacity. We signed agreements with Amazon for up to 5 gigawatts, Google and Broadcom for 5 gigawatts, and then SpaceX for access, which we know about with Colossus 1 and Colossus 2. What they didn't say here is that the SpaceX access is immediate. Colossus 1 and Colossus 2, they're using that already. The agreements with Amazon and Google and Broadcom, I believe that's compute capacity that will be put together over time. It's not compute capacity they have right now necessarily. Maybe they're getting some of it quickly, but a lot of it might be a year or 2 or 3 years down the road. And this is going to play a role in what I'm about to tell you. The other big news from Anthropic is they released Opus 4.8, and I got this notice when I went on Claude just to check it out. Hey, this sounds cool. I got this notice when I started using it on my phone. Opus consumes usage limits faster than other models. And then I asked it a query and I got error sending message. This model isn't available right now. You can switch to another model to continue using Claude. This is Anthropic's fundamental problem. This is actually a problem for OpenAI as well. It's less of a problem for Gemini. It's less of a problem for Grok. It is a classic problem, or modern classic problem, of inference compute shortage. It doesn't matter how good your model is if I can't use it. If you tell me I can use your model, and then I try to use your model and I get this, and this has happened to me with Codex, this has happened to me with Claude. I don't think it's happened to me yet with Gemini. It has happened to me with Gemini with generating videos, and it happened to me once with Grok, a very unusual moment, and it turned out it was like I must have just been like using it like intensively for 4 hours straight, and I hit some sort of temporary limit that, I still was like less than 1% of my usage for the month. But all of these companies face this challenge of, do you have enough compute to serve all the demand? It's my theory that what's going on with AI is massive growth in demand for inference. And the challenge for these companies is not make a better model. They're all really good already. That the 4 frontier models are already elite. I have some issues with Claude outside of that. I have issues with each one of them, but they're all essentially elite. They're all great. Maybe Gemini's not that good at coding. Maybe Claude's not that good at being a chatbot, but they're all very good at a lot of things. And so there's a lot of demand for a lot of what they're going to offer, and that demand is going to accelerate, but the supply of inference compute is not going to accelerate. So do you have enough inference compute for the demand? And do you have enough at low enough cost that you can sell inference at a reasonable price. I'm very happy to see that the investors in Anthropic are getting their money and the employees are getting this, and it's all good. And I think they're doing a great work and making a great model. But there's a business reality that should matter to investors, as you know, Anthropic will probably have an IPO later this year, early next year. OpenAI will have an IPO later this year, early next year. Do you have the inference compute to serve the customers who want your model? And if you don't, are those customers going to go to another model that has more compute at much more reasonable cost? Because Gemini and Grok have much more reasonable cost and they have excellent models that offer a lot. And they're getting better. Everybody's getting better. So where you are on the leaderboard today is not necessarily where you're going to be on the leaderboard tomorrow. Are you going to be able to hook in all these customers and get them locked in? And you know, even if you have your existing customers that like you, as the growth comes in from other people, if this is their experience with your model the first time they try it, then you're not going to get that customer. So where's the growth? That's a challenge. I use all four frontier models, some of them many times a day. I use Claude less, but they're all competitive. They're all very good. I'm not saying Claude isn't better at code. It probably is better at code. I think Codex is very good. I use Codex and Grok for coding. I've used Claude for code review. I think I've used Gemini for a code review. I haven't really tried using Gemini for coding. And I'm not an expert coder. I'm building a project. It either works or it doesn't work. Codex works great for what I'm building. Grok's pretty damn good for what I'm building. Claude did a good code review. Is it that much better that people are going to pay 5 times as much and put up with things like this? And when the new customers come in, and I do want to mention in particular, I think it was 2 nights ago, I wake up in the middle of the night for whatever reason, and I have conversations. I had this idea in my head. I don't remember what the conversation was. And I had the conversation with 5 different AIs, the 4 frontier models and DeepSeek. And Claude was the worst of the 5. It wasn't just worse than the other 3 frontier models, it was worse than the Chinese model. I just checked to find out what it was. I rarely use DeepSeek, so I was able to look back and see what was the last thing I talked to DeepSeek about. It was a conversation about an idea I had for a video. My recent AMD video. Here's my idea for a thumbnail. Here's my idea for a title. Here's the thesis of the video. Let's have a conversation about it. And I actually had a conversation with. I figured DeepSeek was safe to have this conversation. I think with Grok also. Like if you were to evaluate all 4 frontier models from as a psychologist from a autism perspective, where would you put them on the spectrum? But my fundamentally, like when you have these conversations with Claude as a chatbot, not coding, it's like coders can be really, really intelligent when you're dealing with code, but when you're dealing with like real world and or just having conversations about something outside of coding, they don't always get it. Claude doesn't get it. As far as I'm concerned, like ChatGPT is better at image generation than everybody else. Grok is better than everybody else at video generation. Gemini is very good at video generation, but it doesn't give you enough. Grok gives you a lot more video, a lot more tries at generating videos. I haven't hit a limit with Grok yet. I get like 2 videos with Gemini. Claude is it's good in its lane, but as the demand floods in, how will it be in the other lanes that develop? And I'm not convinced they're there. I think that they have some serious problems. So it's an interesting development here. My latest options video is available for YouTube channel members, ex-subscribers, and Patreon supporters. Please support me on one of those platforms if you want to get access to my series on options. I think this was a particularly good video this week. The people who support me and are watching these videos are telling me I'm doing well, and they're helping. So please check it out. Helpful for long-term investors to think about not just long-term call options, but about what you see about long-term, about my metric for options metrics, what that indicates about long-term investing in general in these AI stocks. Turning to our regular AI stocks report, you can see the markets were up pretty uniformly. Micron was down a little bit after the massive growth in that stock. Across the board, our primary stocks were up, Palantir up big. A couple of things happened that affected the markets. There's apparently a ceasefire deal between Iran and the United States, and that at least the appearance of a ceasefire deal may have boosted the markets generally. There's a software company, a cloud software company called Snowflake that reported very good numbers on Wednesday, and that helped some of the software stocks like Palantir, supposedly, maybe Oracle, that they rose because they're related to that kind of business. I should mention that Snowflake dropped related news about the same time that they expanded their collaboration with Amazon, a $6 billion commitment to accelerate enterprise agentic AI adoption. This is one of those things where I'm a little skeptical. If you read this carefully, it's like $6 billion in spending over 5 years, and you wonder, like, how binding is that? How likely is it that's going to be sustained? You get stories like that, and then maybe there's a 90-day out clause. We don't know the details of the contract. Generally positive, obviously, for everybody, but how much does this really matter? Does this really justify a stock going up 33%? I don't know. The earnings numbers were good too. Another detail worth noting is I just did a video about one of the leaders of the Federal Reserve being skeptical about AI and expressing concerns about how people are saying the Fed should respond to AI. We've got another one, Alberto Musalem, who's the St. Louis Fed president. Similar criticism, pushing back on AI boosting productivity growth and how the central bank should set interest rates over that. And there's a reference to the new Fed chairman, Kevin Warsh, apparently having the same view. So there should be some concern for those who are hoping we're going to get lower interest rates and that's going to boost the economy and that'll boost the stocks. If the Federal Reserve resists easing monetary policy, you don't get that. Maybe they tighten monetary policy and that creates problems for the macro. We see these macro effects on the stocks that don't relate to what the companies are doing, but they do have effects on spending ability of people who want to buy AI or want to buy data centers, build data centers. All those issues can be affected by interest rates. One AI thing to keep an eye on, Nvidia has their GTC event in Taipei, Taiwan coming up next week, June 1 to June 4. Not something that I expect to move the stock. Google just had their big event, didn't really affect the stock, but it may be worth following, see what's happening with Nvidia. I'm certainly going to check out some of it. It certainly didn't have much impact on Nvidia stock yesterday, which didn't go up with the rest of the market as much as the rest of the market did. A quick update for our analyst watch. The firm Susquehanna gave a new analyst rating for Broadcom, raising their price target from $450 a share to $490 a share. Broadcom's trading currently at $426 a share, so they were already above where Broadcom is. They relied partly on the just general demand for custom chips that Broadcom does with a bunch of companies, but also on Broadcom's strength in networking hardware. As you get more and more of these clusters going together, they need to communicate with each other. So the networking hardware that Broadcom offers is critical for that. In our PodWatch report, there's probably more, but this is the one that caught my eye. Private market software repricing and capital allocation on A16Z, Mark Rowan. This looks like a good one. A deep discussion on AI infrastructure needs, capital allocation, private market funding waves. How do they get the money to build all this stuff? It's the intersection of big tech build out, all these data centers, and even robotics financing. It's a strong long-term view on how capital is flowing into this AI stack, the layers, whatever you want to call it, Jensen's layers, everything that's going on in AI from the supply chain all the way up to the models and the application layer. Capital allocation is one of my favorite phrases. One final detail, I had a clip for you at the beginning of the video, but Blue Origin had a rocket blow up on the pad at Cape Canaveral. Spectacular explosion. Probably not meaningful too much for AI stocks, but it certainly is positive for SpaceX, which is often talked about. Oh, well, the competition is coming. Oh, the competition just blew up. And, hopefully Blue Origin will resolve this and move on with their next rocket, but not a good sign for Blue Origin. And generally positive as SpaceX heads into their IPO to have their supposedly biggest competitor having this kind of problem. Please let me know what you think of the format. I keep changing things around a little bit. Let me know how everything's going. Drop a comment, like this video, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.